American Ultra, towards the end, has a scene where two CIA agents are on their knees trying to convince their boss not to kill them because of the major screw up that was the movie. The bad CIA agent gets up and says, "Sir, I'm a go-getter. I didn't wait for orders. I took care of this mission, trying to save the expense and time. You'd be thanking me if this works." The boss was taken aback by this and then says, "You're right," and shoots him. Because he wasn't right. It didn't work. He failed. In the MCU, they were having the more or less liberty versus security debate. Captain America no longer trusts the government because he just had to take out a conspiracy of Hydra. Tony no longer trusted himself to do things without accountability because he created Ultron and got a bunch of people killed in Sokovia. So, maybe the Sokovia Accords would have been bad law. Within the context of the MCU itself, there's certain there's certain acceptable fantasy in movies. Batman's cool. We know Batman's right. Batman's taking on obvious villains like the Joker. We would not accept a Batman in the real world. We get that. But in the universe of the MCU, we have a situation where this illusion, this fantasy, is questioned. I think Captain America not wanting to have any accountability is wrong. Captain America is usually a better guy. Captain America is a better human being than Tony. But when Tony asks Steve, "What happens if we're wrong?" and Steve looks at him and says, "We're going to have to live with that." I'm looking at him and thinking, okay, bro, you're draped in the American flag. You're literally fighting in our name by calling yourself Captain America. You go to a foreign country, cause a whole lot of trouble that our diplomats are going to have to deal with. The actions of Tony not having oversight, not having people holding him to account, led to the death of a bunch of civilians, possibly nearly destroyed the world. And your response is, "Oh, well, we'll let our conscience be our guide"? Nah. Now, I'm not talking about blindly trusting the government. I don't. But I also don't think giving up, quote-unquote, liberty for security, you deserve neither, is true. Most of us are operating on a spectrum. I doubt very few people are going to have a problem with pulling somebody over, driving erratically, and conducting an alcohol test. When it turns out that person, when the call is very questionable and there's things like body cams, dash cams, people with phones holding the police to account, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. When that gets on the news and that cop's career is hurt, if he went outside his obligations, if he violated his ethics and code of conduct, when the person was not, when he had no reason to stop that person that was sufficient by the law, he is being held to account. When a president vetoes a law, even if I agree with the law, theoretically, That's to keep Congress from overstepping. When either one of them has a rule overturned by the Supreme Court or by other judiciary, that's them being held to account. When journalists report on politicians' malfeasance, government malfeasance, or other corporations' malfeasance, that's being held to account. When presidents are impeached, when government officials are impeached, that's holding them to account. Now, when it's weaponized, that's a problem. When these different institutions collude because power likes to think they can solve the world's problems by exerting that power, hence the security part of the liberty versus security debate, and people forego their obligations, that's a problem. But the answer isn't just create one single power structure where one power structure answers to itself. The separation of powers, not just the three branches of government, not just state versus feds, but journalists, private institutions. Real quick, Citizens United was a free speech case. Citizens United made a movie questioning Hillary Clinton's behavior. It was a movie. By definition, freedom of speech. They were expressing themselves. They were expressing criticisms of her. Now, if there was slander involved, it may be appropriate to sue them on that ground. But when it comes to in-kind contributions and saying you can't spend money to only certain organizations can spend money to question the state, that means the state has one less area they can be held to account. Now, I have not seen the movie. I'm not holding it to it. But that's where I disagree with Captain America. It's not that I believe the state is smarter. I believe he needs to be held to account. As I do government officials, as I do journalists, people making false allegations that can be sued in court. We know who I'm talking about. So accountability, without accountability, we're not going to have liberty or security.